The sun cast a blood-red glow across Fort Lyon, Colorado, as Madeline Zimmerman clutched her father's will in trembling hands, the parchment crumpling slightly at the edges where her fingers gripped too tightly. The lawyer had just left, his somber message delivered along with the devastating news that changed everything. Her father's ranch, the Crooked Z, was drowning in debt, and without immediate intervention, the bank would claim it all within 30 days. Fort Lyon in 1875 was no place for a woman alone, especially one who had just buried her father. At 22, Madeline had spent her life protected by James Zimmerman's formidable reputation. Now, with him gone, the vultures were already circling. Miss Zimmerman. The deep voice of Rufus Thornton, the town's wealthiest cattle baron, broke through her thoughts. He stood at her gate, impeccably dressed despite the dusty streets of Fort Lyon. "May I offer my condolences?" Madeline straightened her black mourning dress. "Thank you, Mr. Thornton." He removed his hat, revealing graying hair slicked back with pomade. At 45, his weathered face bore the lines of a man accustomed to getting his way. "I'd like to discuss a business proposition regarding your father's ranch." Before she could respond, the jangle of spurs announced another arrival. Clayton Walsh, the bank owner's son, approached from the opposite direction. His clean-shaven face broke into what he surely thought was a charming smile. "Miss Zimmerman," Walsh said, tipping his hat. At 30, he represented the new money in Fort Lyon, polished and educated back east, but no less dangerous. "I was hoping for a word." The air around them grew heavy with tension. Both men knew about her father's debts, both knew she was vulnerable. "Gentlemen," she said, "I've just buried my father. This is hardly the time." "Time is something you don't have much of," Thornton said bluntly. "I'm willing to buy your ranch at a fair price and settle your father's debts." Walsh stepped forward. "Or you might consider marriage. As my wife, your financial troubles would disappear. I've always admired your spirit." The way his eyes traveled down her figure made her stomach turn. Thornton snorted. "The lady deserves better than to be purchased like cattle. Though my own proposition is similar with me, you'd have security, protection. I need a wife, you need salvation." Madeline felt trapped between two impossible choices. Both men were known for their cruelty, Thornton toward his ranch hands, Walsh toward the farmers he'd foreclosed upon. "I need time to consider," she said. "3 days," Thornton replied. "Then I withdraw my offer." "2," countered Walsh with a predatory smile. "The bank waits for no one." After they departed, Madeline collapsed onto the porch steps, burying her face in her hands. The ranch had been her home since birth. Her father had built it from nothing, and now it would go to one of two men she despised or be lost entirely. She didn't notice the rider approaching until his horse's shadow fell across her. Looking up, she saw a stranger, tall in the saddle, with shoulders that blocked the setting sun. His face was partially hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, but she could make out a strong jawline covered in several days' worth of stubble. "Madam," he said, dismounting in one fluid motion. "Name's Owen Keller. I was a friend of your father's, came as soon as I heard." He stood before her, dusty from the trail, his clothes worn but clean. Unlike the other two men, he made no attempt to invade her space. "You knew my father?" Madeline asked. "Served with him during the war. Saved my life at Antietam." His blue eyes held a steady gaze. "I owe him a debt I can never repay." There was something about Owen Keller that felt different from the men she just encountered, an honesty in his weathered face, a respect in how he kept his distance. "I'm sorry for your loss," he continued. "James was a good man." "He was," she agreed, feeling the sting of tears, "but he left me with quite a mess." "I heard talk in town, Thornton and Walsh circling like vultures." She stiffened. "It's none of your concern." "Maybe not," he conceded, "but I made your father a promise once. Said if he ever needed anything, I'd be there. Seems to me that promise extends to you now. Unless you have $2,000 to save my ranch, there's nothing you can do." A slight smile touched his lips. "There might be a third way, Miss Zimmerman." The following morning, Madeline woke to the sound of hammering. She dressed quickly and hurried outside to find Owen Keller on her roof, replacing broken shingles. "What are you doing?" she called up. He paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Fixing what needs fixing. Ranch this size needs to look its best if you're going to sell it properly. Sell it." But I told you not to Thornton or Walsh, he interrupted, climbing down the ladder with ease. On the open market, to someone who'll pay what it's worth. There's no time, she protested. There is if we work fast, he gestured toward the barn. Your father had good stock, but they're not showcase ready. Clean them up, fix the fences, make some improvements, and you could attract buyers from Denver. Why would you help me? Suspicion edged her voice. Like I said, I owed your father. His eyes met hers. And I can't stand by and watch two snakes like Thornton and Walsh take advantage of his daughter. Despite her reservations, Madeline found herself nodding. What do we do first? Over the next days, they worked from dawn till dusk. Owen knew ranching better than anyone she'd ever met, except perhaps her father. He mended fences while she cleaned stalls. Together, they groomed the horses until their coats shone. He repaired the windmill while she planted flowers around the house. Word spread through Fort Lyon. By the third day, both Thornton and Walsh had returned, anger evident in their rigid stances. Who's this drifter you've taken up with? Thornton demanded, eyeing Owen with contempt. Mr. Keller is helping me prepare the ranch for sale, Madeline replied, standing taller than she felt. Walsh's smile didn't reach his eyes. Sale, our arrangements were proposals, not agreements, she interrupted. You're making a mistake, girl, Thornton growled. This ranch will be mine one way or another. Owen stepped forward, his voice calm but his stance protective. The lady's made her choice clear. I suggest you respect it. Thornton's hand drifted toward his gun. You're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, cowboy. Perhaps. Owen didn't flinch, but I'm standing by it. After a tense moment, both men retreated, but not before Walsh issued a final threat. The bank's patience only extends so far, Miss Zimmerman. When your time runs out, remember who could have saved you. Once they were gone, Madeline released a shaky breath. They won't give up easily. No, Owen agreed, but neither will we. As they continued working, Madeline found herself studying Owen when he wasn't looking. He moved with an easy confidence, strong without being showy. Unlike her other suitors, he listened when she spoke, valued her opinions about the ranch. One evening, as they sat on the porch after a long day's work, she finally asked the question that had been nagging at her. Why aren't you married, Mr. Keller? He looked surprised, then thoughtful. War changes a man, came back different than I left, needed time to find myself again. He paused. And please call me Owen. Owen, she said, testing the name. It suited him strong but not harsh. I'm Madeline, he nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. Madeline. The way he said her name made her heart flutter unexpectedly. Tell me about your father, she requested. The parts I didn't know. As night fell, Owen shared stories of James Zimmerman during the war, his bravery, his humor in dark times, his unwavering loyalty. Madeline found herself laughing and crying in turns, seeing her father through new eyes. He talked about you constantly, Owen said. The daughter who could ride like the wind and had a mind sharper than any man's. He said that, more than once. He was mighty proud of you, Madeline. The gentle warmth in his eyes made her look away, suddenly conscious of how close they sat on the porch steps, shoulders nearly touching under the vast Colorado sky. The next morning brought unwelcome news. A telegram arrived from the bank, accelerating her deadline. She had only 1 week remaining before foreclosure. It's Walsh's doing, she said, crumpling the paper. He's forcing my hand. Owen studied the telegram. Then we work faster. I'll ride to Denver today, spread word about the sale. That's a 2-day journey round trip. Then I'd best get started. He headed for the stable to saddle his horse. While Owen was gone, Madeline continued their work, pushing herself harder than ever. She was in the barn, organizing tools, when she heard footsteps behind her. Back so soon? She asked, turning with a smile that quickly faded. Clayton Walsh stood in the doorway, his customary arrogance now tinged with anger. Your cowboy friend's gone, I see. He'll be back, she said, keeping the workbench between them. Will he? Walsh moved closer. Men like that drift in and out. Here today, gone tomorrow. You can't count on them. What do you want, Mr. Walsh? The same thing I wanted before. You as my wife. His tone hardened. Only now my patience is wearing thin. I've made my decision. Have you? Because I've made mine. He produced a document from his coat. This is the deed to your father's loan, signed over to me personally, not the bank. Cold dread washed over her. That's not possible. Money makes many things possible, Madeline. Your fate is in my hands now. His smile turned cruel, and I can be much less accommodating than the bank. She backed away. Get out. Think about it. You have until tomorrow. He tipped his hat mockingly. Mrs. Walsh has a nice ring, don't you think? After he left, Madeline sank to the ground, trembling with fury and fear. Walsh had outmaneuvered her. Even if she could find a buyer, the loan wasn't with the bank anymore, it was with him. When Owen returned the next day, she met him with the devastating news. We've lost, she concluded, fighting back tears. Owen listened intently, his jaw tightening as she explained Walsh's maneuver. Not yet, we haven't. But the loan, may I see your father's will again? Puzzled, she retrieved it from the house. Owen studied it carefully, his finger tracing a particular line. Here, he said. Your father left the ranch to you, along with all assets and holdings therein, including mineral rights. What does that matter now? Owen's eyes lit up. Because 3 months ago, your father and I discovered something on the North Ridge. He swore me to secrecy until he could confirm it. He paused. There's a silver vein running through your property, Madeline, her breath caught. Silver? Not a massive deposit, but enough to pay off the loan 10 times over. James was waiting for the assayer's report when he fell ill. Hope surged through her. Then we're saved. Not quite yet. If Walsh or Thornton learn about this, they'll stop at nothing to take the ranch. We need proof, and quickly. They rode to the North Ridge together, where Owen showed her the telltale signs of silver ore in the rocky outcropping. They collected samples, working frantically against time. We need to get these to an assayer, Madeline said, carefully wrapping the rocks. There's one in Denver who's trustworthy. The crack of a rifle interrupted him. A bullet splintered the rock near Owen's hand. Get down. He shouted, pulling Madeline behind a boulder. 3 riders appeared on the ridge above them, Thornton and 2 of his men. Found something interesting, Thornton called down. I've had my eye on this land for years, girl. Did you think I wouldn't know what's beneath it? Owen drew his revolver. We're leaving with these samples, Thornton. I think not. Thornton gestured to his men, who spread out to flank them. Run for the horses, Owen whispered to Madeline. I'll cover you. I won't leave you. His eyes softened for a moment. Trust me, she did. When Owen fired 2 rapid shots over the boulder, Madeline ran, clutching the precious samples. Behind her, gunfire erupted. She reached the horses, untied them quickly, and led Owen's mount closer to provide him cover. Owen backed toward her, exchanging fire with Thornton's men. One fell with a cry, clutching his shoulder. Just as Owen reached her, a bullet grazed his arm, tearing through his shirt. You're hit, she gasped as they mounted. It's nothing. Ride, they galloped down the ridge, bullets kicking up dust behind them. Once they reached the flatlands, they outpaced their pursuers, but Owen's face had grown pale, his shirt sleeve darkening with blood. Back at the ranch, Madeline helped him inside, her heart pounding with fear and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. Let me see, she insisted, helping him remove his shirt. The wound was a deep graze, bleeding freely but not life-threatening. As she cleaned and bandaged it, her fingers trembled against his skin. You saved my life, she said softly. You saved mine by bringing the horse closer. His hand caught hers, holding it against his chest. We make a good team, Madeline Zimmerman. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her for a moment. She wanted him to. The moment broke when someone pounded on the door. Zimmerman. Walsh's voice. Open up. Owen stood, reaching for his gun, but Madeline stopped him. No more violence, she said. I have a better idea. She opened the door to find Walsh flanked by the town sheriff. This man is trespassing, Walsh said, pointing at Owen, and he assaulted Thornton's men. They shot first, Owen countered. The sheriff looked uncomfortable. Miss Zimmerman, there's been complaints. I need to take Mr. Keller in for questioning. Madeline stood her ground. Sheriff, Mr. Walsh has been threatening me, attempting to force me into marriage by manipulating my father's loan. Walsh's face reddened. That's preposterous. Is it? Then you won't mind if we all ride to the bank together and examine the paperwork. She turned to the sheriff. I believe you'll find some irregularities in how Mr. Walsh acquired my father's loan. The sheriff studied her face, then Walsh's. That sounds reasonable. This is absurd, Walsh sputtered. She's stalling because the deadline expires tomorrow. All the more reason to clear things up now, Madeline replied calmly. And while we're there, you can explain to the sheriff why Thornton's men were shooting at us on my property. The sheriff's eyebrows rose. Shooting, Walsh's plan began unraveling. What had seemed like a simple intimidation had become much more complicated. I'll get to the bottom of this, the sheriff promised. All of you to the bank. Now, at the bank, with the sheriff present, the truth emerged. Walsh had indeed acquired the loan personally, but he'd done so through questionable means, pressuring a bank clerk to falsify documents. When confronted, the nervous clerk confessed everything. "You're in serious trouble, Walsh," the sheriff said grimly. Meanwhile, Madeline showed the silver samples to the bank manager, who confirmed their potential value. "With this collateral, we can extend your deadline while you arrange for proper mining assessment," the manager said, suddenly helpful now that Walsh's influence was waning. By the time they left the bank, Walsh was in custody and Madeline had a 60-day extension on her loan. "We did it," she said to Owen as they walked back to her ranch, the sheriff escorting Walsh to jail behind them. "You did it," Owen corrected. "I just provided the information," she smiled. "We make a good team, remember?" The next weeks passed in a flurry of activity. The silver deposit was confirmed by an assayer from Denver. While not large enough to make Madeline wealthy beyond measure, it provided enough collateral for her to secure proper financing. She hired a small crew to begin limited mining operations while maintaining the ranch as her primary business. Thornton, seeing his scheme thwarted, eventually approached with a legitimate offer to purchase grazing rights on part of her land. With Owen's guidance, she negotiated fair terms that benefited both properties. Through it all, Owen stayed, his temporary help extending as one project led to another. They settled into a comfortable rhythm, working side by side during the day, sharing stories by the fire at night. The ranch flourished under their combined efforts, yet neither spoke of the future, of what would happen when there was no more crisis to manage. One evening, as summer turned to fall, they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson. Madeline found herself studying Owen's profile, the strong lines of his face softened in the fading light. "Why do you stay?" she asked suddenly. He turned to her, surprised. "Do you want me to go?" "No." The word came out more forcefully than she intended. More softly, she added, "No, I don't." "Then I'll stay." Simple, direct. "But why? The ranch is secure now. Your debt to my father is more than paid." Owen was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe I'm not staying because of your father anymore," her heart quickened. "Then why?" He shifted to face her fully. "Because somewhere between fixing fences and fighting off Thornton, I fell in love with you, Madeline Zimmerman." The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. "You never said anything," she whispered. "You had enough to worry about without adding my feelings to the mix." His smile was self-deprecating. "And I'm not exactly what most women dream of, just a cowboy with more scars than savings." Madeline reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "You offered me a third way when I thought I had no choice. You respected me when others tried to control me." She moved closer. "If I've learned anything these past months, it's that a man's worth isn't in his wallet, it's in his heart." Owen's free hand rose to cup her cheek. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Instead of answering with words, Madeline leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as his arms encircled her, drawing her closer. When they finally parted, both breathless, Owen rested his forehead against hers. "I should have done that weeks ago. We have time to make up for it," she replied with a smile. 2 weeks later, on a crisp October morning, they were married in Fort Lyon's small church. The town turned out in force not just because weddings were rare events, but because the story of how Madeline Zimmerman stood up to both Thornton and Walsh had become local legend. Even Thornton attended, grudgingly respectful of the woman who'd outmaneuvered him and the cowboy who'd stood by her side. After the ceremony, they rode back to the Crooked Z, now the Keller Ranch, where neighbors and friends gathered to celebrate. As evening fell and the last guests departed, Owen led Madeline to the porch where they'd shared their first kiss. "Mrs. Keller," he said, the name new and wonderful on his lips. "I have something for you." From his pocket, he produced a small wooden box. Inside lay a silver ring, simple but beautifully crafted. "It's made from the first silver we mined," he explained as he slipped it onto her finger alongside her wedding band. A reminder that even in the darkest times, something precious can be found. Madeline's eyes shimmered with tears as she looked from the ring to the man who had changed her life. "I found something far more precious than silver," she said. As the years passed, the Keller ranch prospered. They had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl who grew up strong and capable under their parents' loving guidance. The silver mine eventually played out, but by then, their cattle operation had expanded enough that it hardly mattered. Owen taught their children to ride and rope, while Madeline instilled in them the same determination and independence that had saved their home. Together, they built a legacy of love and respect that extended far beyond the boundaries of their land. Fort Lyon changed too. Walsh served time for his fraud before leaving Colorado altogether. Thornton, surprisingly, became a grudging ally, eventually recognizing that cooperation served his interests better than conflict. On their 20th anniversary, Owen and Madeline stood on the same porch where they'd begun their journey together. "Any regrets?" he asked, his arm around her waist. Madeline looked out over their land, the ranch they'd saved, the home they'd built, the life they'd created together. "Not one," she said, turning to kiss the man who had offered her a third way when she needed it most and found, in doing so, the greatest love story the Colorado Territory had ever known.